Welcome back to mckilliplife. My name is Amber, and this will be an unpacking blog for February the 7th, 2025. So on this day, West helped me start a project I had been procrastinating on. We had many boxes, all marked china cabinet. We started the process of unpacking, and it was just a lot of wrapping, a lot of bubble wrap and paper and, 3 or 4 things per box. There's just a lot of boxes for everything. And I wish I had got a picture at the end of the mountain of boxes and paper that we generated. We pulled out the chair next to the table, put a box there. I put a box on the folding table over on the side and just started the process. And I say I was kind of procrastinating on this because, one, there were so many boxes involved. And another is the items in this china cabinet, a lot of them are sentimental. A lot of them are just special occasion if you're entertaining. And in the history of our marriage, we haven't entertained very often, but I still have these items available. West's mom tends to be the entertainer and hospitality host of the family, and her house really is suited for that purpose a lot more than ours is. But being a wife with a house, I feel like it's important for me to have the items in case I do decide to entertain. Because West and I do have intention of inviting couples over and double dating, having a couples night. Our house isn't really suited for large groups of people, but we could do 1 or 2 couples easily. It's just getting into the habit of inviting people and hosting. But that is something that we would like to do. So the other reason I have mixed feelings about the items in this cabinet is because of my journey with minimalism and journey with decluttering. And overall, I firmly believe in the idea of decluttering so your space is not overwhelming, and decluttering so that you can easily manage your space and upkeep it. But that's oftentimes connected to minimalism, and a lot of times I do agree with a lot of sentiments. There's a newsletter I read and I receive about minimalism, but like with all things, minimalism can be on a wide spectrum where you go extreme. I think in the last couple of years I've been hearing people use the term maximalism, like you're doing the opposite of minimalism, and you have lots and lots of things. Throughout my life, I've been exposed to and had a lot of teaching on decluttering and household management. And like I said, along with that comes minimalism. And just trying to walk that line of what agrees with our lifestyle, what agrees with our stage in life. And like I said, a lot of these things are sentimental. They don't necessarily have a daily use purpose in our life. I can often declutter and manage things that we daily use and have in our life a lot easier than I can do with the sentimental, because often I feel guilty for even having them, going, what's the purpose? We're not using them. They're just there for display and memory keeping, or like the entertainment things. We're not using them. They're available to be used, and I want to have them available in case we do entertain. It's that just in case scenarios that people often talk about when they're decluttering and talking about minimalism. So this cupboard holds a lot of emotions for me, some household management guilt, but then just trying to find what is my personal belief about minimalism and the purpose of items in our life. I wanted to be able to go through this cupboard and declutter a lot more because we don't necessarily use it a lot, and I ended up, I believe, decluttering that 1 teacup that I just set on the table, because that was a teacup my mom had used, and it held memories of my mom, but I also had another teacup in there that was more special, more valuable, that I was perfectly fine saying, this is my memento, I don't need you. And the other one is a much more modern cup that, someone could be enjoying and using right now. I often have to just counsel myself and say it's not a problem to have mementos. It's not a problem to have sentimental things as long as there's a boundary around it. So like here, this is my cabinet to keep it. I think part of it is I love glassware. I love beautiful dishes. So I could easily see myself collecting a lot more things. But having the boundaries and the container of saying this is my hutch and it needs to fit in here, and that's okay to have that limit, and it's okay to have the things to fill this up. There's also balancing that we're walking through is remembering our stage in life and saying, this is our home. We are allowed to live in it. We are allowed to occupy it, even though we foresee ourselves eventually moving and downsizing. That stage is not upon us right now. We're not doing that immediately. But that whole just mental balance of, I can occupy this now. Just because I have to declutter later and downsize later doesn't mean I have to do it immediately. But also keeping my radar open to say, if there's something that's just there because it's nice to have, but we don't actually use it and it's not really that sentimental, just keeping the radar available and up to watch for things that we could get rid of, even though I'm not pushing myself to go ahead and get rid of everything immediately. So it was just lots of mixed emotions, lots of processing things in my own head during this process. But I also agreed with West that by doing this cupboard, we would make a huge dent in the boxes that were left in our living room and make a whole lot more space to move around and reorganize everything. But I needed his help to get the process started and dive into the project and just say, okay, I'm already in it, so I might as well complete it. But like the previous day, this was definitely a project that had a beginning and an end. These boxes were labeled very clearly, China cabinet. I knew, just get through these boxes and then that project will be done. So it's always helpful for me to have a boundary for the projects I'm working on, a beginning and an end. But West was very helpful. He got me started. And as you can see, he's working on condensing everything because this generated a lot of packing material. I would like to evaluate some of the things I have eventually, because I have a set of platters and bowls that are really heavy glass. They're beautiful, but they're really heavy. And I'd probably like to upgrade them to the China set that I enjoy and appreciate. It's a very botanical China set, but I don't necessarily want every single thing in the service. I want to be choosy about what I get. But if I could replace the bowls and the platters that I already have, just one in and one out principle, then the collection won't grow, but I can customize it more to what I like. I know when I originally got the glass plates and platters, I was getting them because they were beautiful, they looked sturdy, and I could see that they were very neutral and can go with lots of different things. But at this point, I don't mind choosing a style and saying this is what I like, and this is more not having to be so neutral and everything, but actually have a style. If I can, I'll put up a picture of one of the plates so you can see. It's just very beautiful, and it's not so heavy that you feel like you're going to break a cabinet by having a stack of the plates in there. But this particular China cabinet is special to us because it was one of the first pieces of furniture West and I picked out together. Definitely have a blended household. I already owned a house in Arizona, and it was fully furnished. I had lived there for quite a while, and he had his own home here in Texas that was fully furnished with his kids, and so when we got married, we got to combine them. With that, we have a lot of, stories behind the things that we have, but this was one of the first two pieces of furniture that we actually bought together, and we agreed on, and we enjoyed, and we even customized it because the back panel of the top cabinet something had happened to it. It was either broken or missing, and we ended up putting some beadboard on the back, so it's customized to us. But we thoroughly enjoy it. We think it's beautiful, and it's a nice centerpiece at the end of our hallway when you're walking down the hallway to look down and see it. Eventually, we'll get around to replacing the light inside, but the light that it came with was basically a fire hazard. It was crazy hot, so we want to replace it with an LED strip. But we just haven't gotten around to it, and it's obviously not a high priority because in the position of the cabinet here, it's under two different can lights above on the ceiling, so it is highlighted enough for us. But at the end of this time together, I did go through and talk about each item with West, about the history and why I have it and why it's special to us. There are some things from him, but the majority of it is from my past life. But telling the story of the items was helpful and reminded me why I was keeping them and why they're important. There is a program out there, an app, Artifacts, and I've heard the story of it and everything. I think it's a wonderful concept. You take a picture of something or even a video of it, and you can include a story, and it helps you record and document the stories behind the things in your life. And then typically once you do that, once you have it in a safe place, then you feel more able to let go of things and not have to keep it. And even if you don't get rid of it, at least this documentation's done, and it's easier to share with other friends and family, or pull up a story while you're in conversation with somebody to talk about an item. It's a wonderful idea, wonderful concept, but it's one of those apps where you have to have a subscription, and that cost is prohibitive. I want to say it's like $110 a year or something like that. And it's one of those things of you're building this database and somebody else is maintaining it on their server. So yes, obviously you're using their software, using their server. So it's definitely a service worth paying for. But once you pay for it, then you have to continue to pay for it and an additional bill during the year. It's just something that slows down the process of saying, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I was talking to West, wondering, is there a way that we could possibly come up with a method to do that ourselves without using somebody else's software and somebody else's servers? But just a thought bouncing around the background. Eventually we might come up with something or follow through on something. But in the meantime, telling each other the story of the items and keeping the story alive behind the sentimental things is an important part of the process. So as the day comes to an end on this project, I got the joy of walking out to the dumpster. I cut out all the dead time of you staring at an empty kitchen as I was walking out to the dumpster. But you can enjoy the idea that things did get cleaned up, things did get put away. Large stack of boxes are now no longer in our living room, which is a blessing. Thank you for joining me today for this, as we walk through this process of setting up our home and reacquainting ourselves with the things that we own and why we own them. Until next time, feel free to like and subscribe, and I hope you have a wonderful day.